All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Elevated and Chill. It's your boy CJ on the scene, tapping back in with you guys for another session. You already know what we came here to do. We came here to laugh, we came here to chill, but most importantly, we're here to catch a vibe. And as always, let's kick it off with a vibe check. Little vibe check for me this week. It's been a roller coaster week. A lot of things going on in my personal life that are, transpiring right now. But, as the old motto goes, or my life mantra is, stay the course. Wasn't able to hit dance this week at all. A little kind of upset about that. But definitely got to get back to it next week, as well as hit the social next week. Uh, Kind of was out of commission the first 2 weeks for I'm sorry, the first 2 days of the week. In terms of hitting the gym, had a little again personal things going on, but we kind of got back into it later on in the week. Also hit therapy, so therapy was a nice way to just kind of like vent and get things out. So I'm looking forward to a positive week this upcoming week. But there's a lot of things going on, a lot of things transpiring, home team. So we'll hop right into it. But before we hop into it, obviously home team, let me know what you guys how you guys are doing. What's your mental check? What's going on with you guys? Drop it in the comments. Sorry, was racing to get into the playoffs and the agenda we have. Obviously, the playoffs, music dropping and all that stuff, but obviously it's important to for me to know how you guys are doing. So again, drop it in the comments. Yeah, the NBA playoffs are rocking and rolling. I got my New York Knicks jersey on. JB Jalen Brunson. Obviously, home team. You guys know I'm not necessarily a Knicks fan, but I am a New Yorker, and I would love for the Knicks to have a championship coming to the city. It's been a while since we even had a championship energy, so just kind of even the Knicks being in this position is absolutely amazing, and it's a milestone by a long shot. So I got to rep. I got to rep for a New Yorker who's been wanting championship energy. Every time I talk about the Knicks, I say you guys because I don't want to feel like I'm hopping on the bandwagon, but I am, and you guys know this, a diehard New Yorker. So we are rooting for the Knicks for sure to get it done. So definitely in support of them. I'm not per se in the fan base because you want to know why? Because a lot of these fans and stuff like that, they've been waiting for this moment. And you know what? I haven't been a part of that. The struggles. So I'm not gonna be necessarily a part of their the ups, but I'm gonna be adjacent to the up because this is a big up for New York City and just for sports in New York City. So aligning, not being totally a part of it, but being adjacent with it in a sense we're from a New Yorker perspective, born and raised here. So we're definitely rooting for the Knicks. And let's talk about it. Let's talk about the playoffs. The playoffs are rocking and rolling. We're 3 games into both sides. We'll kick it off since I came off high and heavy with the New York Knicks. Uh, the Knicks are one game away from the NBA Finals, and honestly, echoing my last statements, I can't imagine we're here now. For a while, we were all looking at the Knicks like, what are we like? What are the Knicks doing and stuff like that? What's going on? But now they're a functional team. They're playing the right way. Mike Brown is leading the charge. They they went down. They looked down and out in the first round, but they just been on a hot streak, winning game after game, game after game, um, playing hard. And yeah, they just been doing it. They just been really just hooping as uh as New Yorkers will say. So they've been hooping, and they swept the 76ers. It looks like, we're, we're gonna manifest it. They're gonna sweep the Cleveland Cavaliers, and it's kind of been it's really just been like abysmal, to be honest. I feel like, you know the the Knicks really have applied a lot of pressure to the Cavs. Jalen Brunson has been absolutely amazing. In these what you call it, in these j- the playoffs in general. It just really is a testament to who he is as a player. Um, and he's just really been dialed in, locked in. From the first game, winning 115 to 104. I mean, the Knicks as a team just been locked in. They shot 48% from the field, 31% from the free throw, from the 3 point land. You know, they struggled at the free throws, only hitting 66, but they out rebounded the Cavs. They, steals, blocks, they just were all over it, overwhelming. Uh Obviously the uh the Cavs couldn't recover. Went down what went down game which call it went down game 2 and 3, and now they're looking on a brink of elimination. And, and to be honest, it really just stems from the fact that here we are looking at a Cavs team. James Harden doesn't look like himself at all. He looks atrocious. Obviously he has age, so it's showing very, very much so. But still, in all, it's like he really just doesn't show up in the playoffs, and that's really been the mantra of his. We saw a little bit of it, and we saw little glimpses of old heart of what we know Harden can do in the series against the Pistons, but it's just not shown here. Donovan Mitchell isn't, I wouldn't say he's not playing well totality wise, but I do think there's a certain level as a star that he needs to be playing at, and he just hasn't been playing that either. You know what I'm saying? Over the past 3 games, the Knicks are just playing as a cohesive unit. Obviously they're playing through Cat, which has been working for them. Jalen Brunson is, playing well. Mikal Bridges is playing well. OG's playing well. Shamit is huge. For them has been huge. Hitting like key shots. Mostly in game 2. So they really been honing in on just playing as a team. And this is really a tribute to, Mike Woodson for sure. I mean not Mike Woodson, Mike Brown. He's been really um leading the charge as a coach. And yeah, I mean it's really, yo, listen, New York, baby. It's really New York. You know what I'm saying? So they've been playing really well. And they just been locked in from the jump. That's just how it goes. So game 4, the Knicks are looking to seal this deal. Brunson had 30, Josh Hart had 9 rebounds, Carl Downs had 7 assists. Where's Donovan Mitchell when they need him the most? You know what I mean? Like, let's see, in game 3, a chance to like catch up with the series. This was a pivotal game for them. James Harden 8 points. Donovan Mitchell had 22. He didn't shoot. He didn't shoot the best. Went 9 for 21. Evan Mobley had 21 points, but then he had 14 in game 2, and it looked like, look, it didn't look too well. You know what I mean? He just stopped shooting. So Landry Shaman had 14 points off the bench. OG and Mikel are playing their top. Carl Anthony Towns is doing what he needs to do. So it just looks like a team victory. The I feel like the Cavs just really just lost morale. And it shows. It really shows. And like I said, the Knicks are looking to close this out in game four. So bring out the brooms. Bring out the brooms. So the Knicks, we're manifesting the Knicks going to the finals. They're one game away. Uh Kind of on the west side of west coast of things. Oklahoma City Thunder versus the Spurs. Wimby had a historic game one. He secured and I shouldn't say really but mostly him secured a victory for the Spurs. 40-20. Dylan Harper obviously contributed. Stephon Castle contributed as well, but overall he had a this was like a this was a defining moment for him, a pivotal game for him as well. He cemented why he's probably going to be the best player in the NBA for years to come. But they caught up games 2 and 3, and look, man, look, he, here's really what it comes down to. Oklahoma City's bench, they bounced back. They anchored the victory. Obviously because how deep they are on the bench. Um, and then they came out and they looked dominant in game three. But I want to say this: a lot of game three and even game two just shows. Obviously you gotta get physical with Wimby. You gotta kind of you know not not necessarily. You gotta get physical with him because he's so good and so tall that his defensive presence is tough. But at the same time, I think there's a level of playing physical with him versus just straight up trying to just knock him out the game. And I just feel like that's what the Thunder are doing is they're literally just trying to take him out the game. I mean, I'm sorry, the Thunder are trying to do take him out the game. And you know, game three, the calls were just crazy. There was a lot of times where it looked like even in game two they were holding Wimby, and I think these things need to be seen more. I think these things need to the Thunder are getting called for all these the Spurs. I'm sorry, the Spurs are being called for all these unnecessary fouls and stuff like that. And it, listen, I'm not saying maybe they still lose, but playing getting some of the calls right. But at the same time, it's like come on, like I feel like maybe the gap would have been closed a little bit. You know what I mean? So, but it also there's times in this playoffs, this series right here where you can see, even though the Spurs have a talented team, the the lack of experience is there, especially in Dylan Harper and Stephon Castle. When I was watching these games, I could see like they're kind of waiting to like the last moment to take a shot. And in playoff basketball, like sometimes you just gotta get the ball like moving and get the ball going and make a play and get the ball in the hoop. They're kind of like they're not figuring things out. And I think that's gonna come with experience. But even to make it this far with a young team, is absolutely amazing. We're seeing Dylan Harper like show why he's a star, or he's gonna be a star, and it's year one. So imagine like year two and three where he's really elevated his game. It just shows again the Spurs culture and what they have. You know what I mean? So game four is Game four is going to be, a pivotal one for the Spurs to tie the series up. They won one at their crib. Now they need to win one at theirs to tie it up. But this is definitely looking like it might be going to game six, game seven for sure. I don't think I hope not. The Spurs will lose in five. I think they'll pull together and win today, and the series will be tied, and it's just a matter of again, it's a matter of your role players coming in, coaching as well, coming to fruition. So, and you know what? Like, I know I mentioned the foul baiting and all that stuff. But let's not also discredit the Thunder. They are a great team. Obviously, Chet came back and he started playing like him, but himself. Shea is Shea. He's that guy in the league. So, you know, like I said, this is this matchup right here is the matchup we kind of all foresaw in the beginning of the season, or as the season was progressing. So now it's just a matter of like who gets that crown. So yeah, but another thing too is again, like I mentioned, bully win like not bully Wimby, but also get physical with him. And I think that's kind of what the Thunder have been leaning into is get physical with him because you can't stop him. Can't stop the guy. The guy's 7'5", could shoot, could defend. But what you can do is limit the amount of wear and tear on his body. Make him work for his buckets. You know what I mean? So um, again, this is kind of gives finals energy. And look for me, home team. I'm looking at the Knicks versus the Spurs for sure. That's kind of like the mindset I'm going into as a rematch of the 1999 finals. So, I'm I'm hoping the Spurs pull this through and the Knicks pull out the sweep and it's an old 1999 rematch. And see, let's take it from there. We'll revisit the conversation. Obviously, we're covering it we're getting giving all the updates and stuff like that. So trying our best to dissect the game as much as possible. But yeah, that's the NBA playoffs. Again, we're in game three on both sides. No, I'm sorry, we're going into game four on both sides. Home team. Let me know what you guys think. What are you guys thinking about the Western Conference Finals as well as the Eastern Conference Finals? Drop it in the comments. Let me know your excitement. And as always, New York, stand up. We are here. We're bringing a chip to the city. And New York is gonna be like Gotham. It's gonna be madness. I think we should just shut down for like a day so New Yorkers can do what they got to do. Because listen, if New York Knicks win the finals, tough, tough. And look, I know throughout the playoffs we're talking about Wemby being the greatest and stuff like that, but I think Jalen Brunson, if he brings or when he brings a chip to the city, you got to put him up there for the one of the greatest things of all time. It just he's been to the final, he's been to the playoffs every year he's been here. He's never not shown up. He's putting historic numbers in the fourth quarter. Listen, I wasn't really necessarily a fan of, and I wouldn't say a fan. I didn't know his game, point blank. Period. I didn't know his game, but since he's got here, that boy JB, I know his game, and his game. That man is a dead, is a he's a bad man. He is a bad man. The way he attacked fucking Harden that game one, man, he is a bad man. So he's ice cold with it. So we gotta give props where props to do. Credit where credit is due as well. So yeah, home team, drop it in the comments. We're rocking and rolling with these NBA playoffs. If your favorite team is in the playoffs, drop it in the comments. Show some love. Uh, Kind of keeping it in the same realm of sports. But kind of switching it gears as well. WWE, guys, I gotta touch base with the WWE. big wrestling fan. Obviously we're WrestleMania happened. We're kind of like, um, this is kind of funny. We're on the road to Backlash. If you guys, there was a Triple H kind of promotion for Backlash where he emphasized Backlash, so it's kind of funny. But we're Backlash happened. So this Saturday night's main event. And honestly, home team, you know, little bit of mixed feelings. I don't really know what they're doing with Brock is back, and I just feel like it's kind of lazy how they just don't know what to do with Oba now, because is Oba the upcoming wrestler? Yes, but is he necessarily ready to step in the ring with Roman and obviously for a championship match? Probably not. So they're kind of struggling to figure out what's gonna happen with Oba. And now, they they uh they have Brock coming back, and it's gonna be Brock versus Oba and the Clash of Italy, which that's another thing too. All these clashes is like crazy, but I just feel like there's a lack of putting thought process into what they're trying to do with these next generation of stars. Honestly, I love to see the Street Profits back, but I don't really know what's going on with the Vision. Like I feel like Paul Heyman is with the Vision, but he's also with Brock now, and it's like we had Bron Breakker beat Seth at Backlash, but it's like I don't know, it's just very like gappy work. You know what I mean? Like it's not like, is there gonna be like a rivalry between Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins? Like where does the Vision stand? In terms of like this whole cog of obviously they got the tag team championships, and they heavily been beefing with the Street Profits. First of all, Montez Ford is fucking athletic as shit. He's crazy athletic. Angelo Dawkins is, he's also they're a great tag team. And I feel like both of them can make a push for doing a singles run. Uh, but yeah, I just don't know what's going on there. To be honest, just to keep it short, I also don't know what's going on with like the Judgment Day and Liv Morgan, and I just don't know what's going on with Dom. Like, what are they doing with Dom? Obviously, like Finn is not now going toe to toe with JD, which I guess you expected coming out of that betrayal thing. So there's a lot of like gaps. I do, even though I feel like a lot of people are saying with the whole Sami Zayn, like where does he stand type of thing. I think we're hitting a point where like we're starting to see Sami Zayn possibly becoming a heel. Just by the fact of what he's getting sick of. We saw it on Friday where like he kind of just abandoned Cody, and normally he wouldn't be doing that. Uh, yeah, I think honestly like he's going around like he's been misplaced, and I think he's getting tired of it. So you know, it's kind of like what's going on there, but it's kind of like okay, like I guess like there's a reason for it. He's kind of maybe becoming a heel, and I kind of hope he does become a heel. Cody's another one is like he's facing Gunther now because Gunther old, Paul Heyman old Gunther, but like Gunther comes out of nowhere. It's like I don't know. I just feel like the pieces aren't like connecting right. Um, there's a lot of interference going on in the matches on Friday. This past SmackDown. And it's like okay, like we love interferences, like it gets, but when things are repetitive, and that's what I think that it's repetitive. Why is it repetitive? Like, where are we going with these younger stars? So, obviously Roman being back helps a lot because now he's feuding with Jacob Fatu. And it kind of seems like that bloodline glimpses again. and Jacob is a stellar talent. I feel like he's one day gonna be a champion. So I think having this, now they're gonna do a trial combat, and I think moving forward, that will be a nice feud to have. But after that, it's like, where do both of them go? Where does Roman go? Where does Jacob go? So it's kind of deciphering, like, all right, like where are you taking this? But for right now, it looks promising because you keep it in the bloodline. Jacob, Roman, you see like one is out of control, the other one is like, I guess you could say calculated, but Roman has his history, so he's developing as a person. There's a lot of like nuances that make that storyline pretty good. But WWE does this, like they kind of sit on talent, and it's like, you got Bron Breakker, you got Trick Williams. Another thing is that you got Mello. Why isn't Mello not in any sort of, you know, put getting any type of push? I feel like you see like he's getting a little bit of a push, and then like it's kind of taken from him. Obviously, like you would like to see now him and Trick going battling in it for the US championship. So, but you got young talent now. You got Trick, you got Mello, you got Braun Breaker, you got Lash Legend. But again, like she I guess it's nice that she's getting paired up with home team. Having troubles remembering this. Damn, what is this? What is this? The Annihilator or finishing? Wow, it's at the tip of my tongue. Hold on, home team. Give me 1 second. Lash Legends tag team partner. Hold up. Nia Jax. I don't know why I was struggling to get that. Nia Jax. Yeah, she has Nia Jax, and maybe that's like kind of like mentorship kind of thing. Obviously, like I feel like what are you doing with Rhea Ripley and Jade Cargill? Does Jade have a team now? So I think overall, like I think WWE has this nice group of young talent, but it's just a matter of how are they gonna capitalize on the talent and kind of develop them as they go. Obviously, I'm not saying just throw them in the main event. They're kind of not ready for that, but like that's why you got mid card championships. You got the U.S. championship, you got intercontinental championship, and I think what Penta is doing with the intercontinental championship is very good work. I think he's doing what he can based on what they're giving him. And it just shows Penta as a wrestler. But they could be doing more. I think a feud between Penta and maybe Dom could really spice things up a little bit. I really think Dom needs to break away from the Judgment Day, as I feel like that's kind of been holding him back a lot. So yeah, I think just overall the WWE landscape is kind of like Roman's back, so let's just give you guys Roman as much as possible. But it's like what's going on in these individual storylines that's taking place. You know what I mean? And like spinning it back to the whole Gunther, Cody, like, all right, Paul Heyman, you owe Gunther, but like, where does this like fit in? Like, I feel like when you old CM Punk, all right, he came back, he helped, he was with Roman, the Bloodline, and like that, that what you call it, that battle. Yeah, it was they were kind of like helping them with the battle. I think it was the OG Bloodline or something like that. So obviously from there, Paul Heyman owed Punk something, and then Punk finally got it. So, but like Gunther coming out of nowhere attacking Cody, and it's like, oh, like, well, I owed Gunther, and it's like there's no thought of to like making it so. All right, where does Gunther fit in this championship run? You know what I mean? So it's kind of like you're just inserting, and things are repetitive. And I think WWE needs to really find out where things like where are they taking um their younger talent, but as well their storylines. So yeah, drop it in the comments, home team. What do you think about WWE up to this moment? Up to the Saturday's night main event. What do you think about the new talent from WWE? Yeah, drop it in the comments. Keep the WWE conversations going as well. I like to chime in as well as those. So, like I said, leave a drop in the comments and leave your thoughts. Uh, chill and ask. Chill and ask. Again, like you guys are great coming up with questions. And put it, sending it. Really thoughtful questions too, and very intuitive. So we love your questions here. Keep it coming, home team. But the first question is: look at the current conference finals matchup. Which team actually feels like the true championship favorite, and is it because of star power or overall depth? Depth, and I guess like if you want to just say the obvious, it's probably what you call it, the Thunder, just because you have a star player, you have people around the star player contributing to this, contributing to the success of the star player, but you also have a bench. And I think a bench is key when you're going in these deep playoff runs because they're gonna get you a game throughout the series, each series. So, and it's looking like that in that Spurs Thunder game. But I think I I think there's no clear championship favorite, to be honest. If that's really my true answer, is because when you look at the Spurs, you got Wimby, you got Dylan Harper, you got Stephon Castle, De'Aaron Fox isn't even in yet. So when they get him back, he adds a different dynamic. So I just think like, you got Keldon Johnson, Harrison Barnes. So it's like you got these players that really could hoop. And on top of everything, they're really cohesive together. Another team that's cohesive is the Knicks. Obviously, you know, Jalen, Mikel, Josh Hart, they all played on that Villanova team. So they already have the chemistry there. But I really think like outside of that, they have a community within each other. You know what I mean? So I think I think really there's no real clear cut favorite, even though like by paper, when we look at the Thunder, it's like, all right, yeah, like they got it. But when you really analyze each team, I think each team has, their own reason for being a championship, a true favorite. So and it's not even. No, I think Wimby. The Spurs probably have more of a all right, like a star power because they're still developing their bench, but they also got depth too. They got other guys around them, but I think it's more so because we see Wimby, his presence on the defensive end, and then obviously he could do things on the offensive end. So we're automatically gravitated towards his our star capability, but I think overall, like each team has depth on them. It may look a little bit different, but obviously, for you know everybody looking at things on a more surface level, the Thunder. But for me personally, being diving a little bit deeper into the NBA, I think every team has uh is a true championship team. Even if the Cavs, if they have Donovan Mitchell and James Harden playing, they know they can play, and obviously you got Evan Mobley and Strus and all these guys hitting from coming off the bench and hitting, and you got Jarrett Allen doing what he has to do. That's a pretty decent team too. So and they could make uh, you could make an argument that they could be a championship favorite, but obviously, where we're going right now, it just looks like they don't seem like it. But when all things are clicking for them, that's when you could see like, all right, like they look like a more of a championship team. So that's my answer. Um, for that question is there's no really true championship favorite by a long shot. Each team you can make an individual case for each team. Uh Next question is, since WrestleMania, does WWE feel like it's building towards a clear new era, or they still relying on the same stars to carry the product? And I think the latter. I think they're still relying on Roman to carry the product. they're still giving us the bloodline and bloodline stories and stuff like that. I think you know they're trying to figure out what to do with this new talent. But they just don't know how to properly like kind of assimilate them in. Trick Williams being championship, I think if I was booking this, there'll be a lot of there'll be a rivalry between Trick and Melo, reignite that for the US championship. Penta and Dom on the other end for the Intercontinental Championship. Obviously now you got Ricky Sane, so like kind of throw him in the mix somewhere as well. So like, and I get it, like you don't want to just put a title on somebody quickly. You want to make sure like they know what they're doing, they deserve it. But at the same time, like somebody like Melo, like you had it on him, but you took it away from him. I think, I think, I think like going into WrestleMania, if you really had like the Melo trick, it would have been like an ultimate rivalry, igniting that again. I guess they probably put Sammy in it just because they wanted Sammy to, because Sammy's in that weird like I'm not really like a main event star, but I'm kind of a little bit above the mid card, so he's in that limbo stage. So I think that they're trying to capitalize on that. And maybe the heel turn will do him justice, but yeah, I think WWE is just relying on the Roman. To be honest, they're relying on Roman to do what Roman does. Come in and use his natural gravitation to boost up the product. So, I think that's where they need to really invest in the growing talent that they have. So yeah, that's my answer to that question. That's a great question, actually. And I kind of alluded to it, when in our previous segment talking about the WWE. The next question is: does dropping multiple projects in a short time frame, um, is that a smart for artists, music releases, or does it prove to be too much and can hurt impact? Um, I think it depends on the artist, but it also depends on you know how much music, and it's really a thing of quality versus quantity. Like you just don't want to flood the market with music and like most of the songs don't hit. You want songs that are like you want at least a couple of the songs, depending on how many projects you do or projects or songs you drop. You want a decent, you want at least like a couple of them to stick out and to actually make it hit worthy. So I think artists today just need to be smart on how what they're putting out, not in terms of how they put it out, whether they drop two projects in a matter of a month or two, or they're dropping like they're just flooding they call it flooding the streets of music. It's just a matter of how much thought and how much thought are you putting into your music, creativity wise, care and love into the music, that you're kind of want for your fans. And also like it's more so just thinking about the fans. Like obviously you want to give them music to obtain, but are you providing your music with quality music? It's not just like knockoffs or throwaways or whatever the case may be. And I think when an artist is putting out music, they need to really consider their fan base versus putting out music just to put out music. And I think some artists kind of do that. They just kind of put out music just to put out music without no real thought or intention in their music. So I think it really just depends on what the artist's like strategy is, and once you kind of find what your strategy is and what your fan base is, then you could kind of like make quality music towards your fan base. And if your fan base, when you have a solid fan base, they're gonna run your music up. So it's just more so putting out quality music for your fans. That's a great question, which kind of segues into the ultimate discussion of Drake, or as I like to call him, Aubrey, dropped last week, a multitude of projects. He dropped three projects. Iceman, the long anticipated album from him. He dropped Maid of Honor and Home Team. Correct me on the pronunciation. Habidi. Uh, he dropped three projects. Uh, a lot of people are saying that he dropped these three projects to get out of his deal with UMG. You know, from a business perspective, it's a great thing to get out your deal, obviously, and have your music moving forward and be independent. If he does become independent, he'll be the biggest independent artist. That's just a fact. It's just who he is and what his the brand that he's been able to put together for himself. You know, with that being said, removing the business portion of it and stepping into more of a where like what I just said, like obviously like Drake is gonna put out music and a lot of the things that he does touch is hit worthy. But on a surface level, he might put something out and people are gonna run it up because it's Drake. But when you dive a little bit deeper, it's like is like was this necessary in the terms of like for your fan base and was it you know could you have done this a little bit better? I think because of where Drake stands, he could have put more thought into his music. Um, for me personally, I thought Habidi should have been like more developed. I didn't think there was any, I think it was just a mid album to be honest. And when you start comparing the albums, I think Iceman was the better album out of the three. Maid of Honor, I did like some songs on Maid of Honor. And we could just talk about that right now. The songs that I liked on Iceman were Make 'Em Cry, Dust, Make Them Pay, National Treasures, Plot Twist, Little Birdie, and Make Them Known. Obviously he has songs on there that are gonna go for sure. Hits in the Club, Shebang, Janice, Shut the Fuck Up, STFU, sorry, Home Team. Uh I said Janice. I meant Janice. Shut the fuck up. And like it's gonna what you call it be these are songs that are gonna run it up in the club, and a lot of the songs are probably on his other albums are gonna run up because it's cool music when you're in the club and you're dancing, you're having a good time. But uh overall it's like where's the quality in the music? I think the few tracks in Iceman, he does talk about a lot of things on the project where, obviously a lot of people got strays, now strays got disses towards them. A lot of, he does on some tracks get vulnerable about a lot of things. I think make them cry. He talks about, his father having cancer and all that stuff. There's a lot of just more things that he needed to address on that album. And I just think the other two were just like, all right, let me just make these two so I could just get out of my deal versus like, all right, let me also put thought into these two as well and kind of like make three quality albums because I can do that. So yeah, and obviously like, Drake is a versatile rapper. He could step into any given lane that he deems. He has, tracks that are, reggaeton, reggae tracks, just, Afro Caribbean trap raps. Obviously he's tapped into the London scene, poppy records. So he's very versatile as a reckless, as a reckless, as a artist. But at the same time, like again, are you just putting out music to at this point in your career just to be on the charts and just prove a point that like whatever I put out is gonna be a hit, or you're actually being more intuitive with your music. And I think all artists across the board should be intuitive. With this being said as well, obviously, in 2024 when the beef between him and Kendrick was happening, we saw a lot of people chime into the beef. And one of the people being Rick Ross. I think Rick Ross, for me, I like Rick Ross. I like his music. I think, I mentioned it I think on like an episode or two ago where I was like, Rick Ross is a great featured artist where he hops on a feature, you know, it kind of levels up a little bit. But at the end of the day, like the Drake stimulus package is real, and don't sit here and thinking that like you didn't get a lot of your biggest hits not because of Drake. Stay scheming, um, ASMR music, um, he got you on a lot of these, gold roses, and you got him on a lot of these tracks, and it's like, I think Raw's doing all the projects with Mid and going on interviews and talking all this about Drake. I think like, listen, man, like you can't be doing that when this man has literally boosted your career. Like, let's just be honest. Like, there's certain people that Drake has boosted their careers, and they need to give him the respect. Like, let's not get shit twisted here. Drake is still that guy. Like, he is that guy that makes music for. He's liable to give you a hit record. So, and he's given multiple people hit. See, similar like 2 Chainz. 2 Chainz, whatever, if there was any beef, he's kind of not speaking on the Drake thing. Obviously because he's being neutral about it. You know what I mean? But I think that's what you need to do when Drake has given you multiple hits. And like even in the verses, like ASMR Music Club came and they were seeing Drake's part. Like he has a pivotal part in your career. You know what I mean? So you gotta give credit where credit is due. I think Future being on there, like why are you on there, Future? I mean, they may have patched up their beef, but which is fine. Obviously, again, the link up between Future and Drake is obviously amazing for the culture. Um, you know, but I just do like you could squash the beef, but at the same time, not be on the album, but like you were on the album. So it's like where do you stand? And we haven't really heard from Future. Obviously, Drake sent shots at J. Cole. He obviously wants nothing to do with J. Cole, which respectfully, it's like you bowed out in the middle of a battle, and Drake's supposed to be a man, so it's like it just looks bad on the optic level. Kendrick obviously, which we all knew he was gonna get bars. He was gonna get a lot of disses towards him. Um, but this obviously is his major moment coming from the Kendrick beef. So it was good to see him like, come back and, obviously drop Iceman and kind of really address everything that was going on. You know, like I said, do I hate Janice? Shut the fuck up. Yeah. Do I hate Shebang? Yeah, but they're gonna run up in the club, too hard for the radio. It's probably gonna run up as well. And that's just because Drake is Drake, and people are gonna run his music up because he's the platform that he's built, and but also the fact that it matters is that you know anything anything he touches, is gonna get your crowd popping. That's just people want to hear Drake. Um, I don't really know if this rebuilds his image. Even though him addressing some of the topics that he should have addressed. But I do think like this really just like kind of also just shows why like him bringing Spotify records as well just shows why like he is who he is. Um, but also it also shows like who he is. I think on some of the tracks he did cop a plea. And when I mean cop a plea, like it was very like well, like I'm a hit maker and blah blah. It would have been nice for him to dive a little bit deeper. I think when I'm talking about he addressed things, but it was like very like surface level, and that's what Drake does. He keeps it surface level. He throws subliminals, and that's just the nature of who he is as a person. I don't think nobody is gonna ever change that. But again, like Drake is Drake. It really just boils down to he is the hit he is a hit maker. He has multiple hits on his belt. Um, and it also just shows like, listen, man, like don't burn any bridges for other artists because in terms of other artists, because a lot of Drake has helped a lot of careers. So let's not really like and obviously the biggest one is gonna be well, like he put Kendrick on, but you don't know after that he put Kendrick on tour with him. What we all know what happened after that. There was a lot of like friction there. I think it probably stemmed from the control verse that he dropped, and obviously led into what transpired in 2024. So I think Drake a lot of times took that verse very personally, and then subs and subs and subs, and it just kept on boiling and boiling until the oven was too hot, and things just kind of just bursted. But yeah, overall, like, you know, Drake dropped. There's a lot of rumors that Kendrick might drop as well, which would be crazy because Cole, Drake, and Kendrick drop. So we'll see. Obviously, if Kendrick drops, I will be tapping into that as well. But yeah, my overall opinion of the Drake drop was, I think Habidi should have been not even dropped. It's mid. It's mid is really keeping it very pleasant. Iceman has a few tracks on it where I'm like, all right, cool, I can bump this. Um, and obviously has hits as well. And I think they all are gonna have hits. People are gonna run it up. But from a maid of honor standpoint, he definitely had a couple of tracks that I would bump as well in there. But overall, I think this was a more of a play to get out of his deal versus instead of like, all right, let me give quality music to my fan base, and because that's something that they've been waiting for. But I think from a lot of Drake's fan base as well is very surface level. They kind of just tap into like, what plays in the club versus like, yo, like we want to hear certain things from Drake. I think that's what I want. I want to hear certain things from Drake. I think a lot of these tracks could have been maybe put in Iceman, develop a little bit more. So yeah. Home team, drop it in the comments. Let me know what you guys thought about, the Drake projects. Keep the conversation going. Also, any of our chill and ask questions, I forgot to mention as well. Drop your answers to that in the comments as well. Would love to get your feedback on those three questions. Those are great, solid questions. And yeah, wrapping up our last segment, elevated advice. Um, Sponsored by CoStar. CoStar, you know where to find us. Please, you know where to find us. But my elevated advice for you guys, home team, is don't let yourself become invisible. I think this is very this is very great advice when you're kind of like mostly in your career, or like, if you're ambitious in what you do. I think you shouldn't just kind of just play the background. If or even like if you believe in something, you always want to fight for it. You just don't want to like keep your opinion to yourself. But mostly in your career, like you want to show whoever that you're willing to grab the bull by the horns and take ownership, and don't just wait until things to be given to you. Take things. Ask about opportunities instead of just waiting for them to be placed on your plate. So I think that's what I'm like kind of gathering from the elevated device. Just opportunities are never gonna come and just dropped on your plate. I think sometimes you need to go out and get them. If you're looking for a new job, don't just wait on it for a job to land in your lap. Go out, seek it, use your connections in your job. If you're looking for a promotion, reach out, see who could put in a word for you, or what are the things that you could do better. Um, Constructive criticism that could help you get to the next level. If you have a certain belief, don't feel afraid to say what you got to say. Things like that. You know what I mean? So, overall home team, keep keep it up, keep showing up for yourself every day. Keep showing up for who you are as a person, and keep going after and being ambitious and taking over those opportunities that might not be afforded to you, but you're going out and being proactive about it. So a lot of proactiveness that stems from this elevated advice. Home team, drop your elevated advice in the comments. Obviously, we always love to end these sessions off, positively and uplifting, to get you guys through like the week, as well as discussing maybe somebody has an elevated device that kind of is helping you out the day. So just drop that in the comments or the week. And yeah, keep the conversation going on all bases. Everything we talked about. As always, home team. You can find us on YouTube. Thursdays, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For all my people on the West Coast, 3 p.m. Pacific Time. Subscribe, hit the bell, stay locked in with us. And yeah, until next time, home team, I'll see you guys on the flip side. I'll catch ya.